we have another installment in our Swimrun 101, popular Swimrun 101 series.
Popular.
This one on gear maintenance. We get a lot of gear questions. We love them. Keep them coming. Never stop.
Mm-hmm.
And a good amount of them are around how to maintain your gear. So we thought we'd put something out there with our best thinking on how to look after your Swimrun kit.
Welcome to the Low Tide Boys, a Swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
I'm Chris, and this is episode 208 of the show. Welcome to our final show for 2023. Mm-hmm. This week, we have another installment in our Swimrun 101, popular Swimrun 101 series.
Popular.
This one on gear maintenance. We get a lot of gear questions. We love them. Keep them coming. Never stop. Mm-hmm. And a good amount of them are around how to maintain your gear. So we thought we'd put something out there with our best thinking on how to look after your Swimrun kit.
Absolutely.
Talking about gear, it's like, we can do that all day. Baby.
Yeah, I mean, we're here for all the gear talk, so send your ideas over. And yeah, I think this is like, we've been at it for a bit now, 208 episodes or whatever.
Seasoned.
How many 50 plus Swimrun, including practices and also
Oh, yeah.
Who knows?
I would I can't even.
We've had him on the show, the Matt Dixon of Purple Patch Fitness. He had a saying that a clean bike is a fast bike. And I know we don't use bikes in Swimrun, but I think the analogy applies.
Yes.
You treat your gear well, it will treat you well.
Totally. So in that vein, we broke up this conversation on gear maintenance into three areas. Basically, what to do with your kit during training, considerations per pre-race, and then post-race.
And then, post-race, post-season. I know I just put mine away for the winter hibernation.
Did you do a good job?
For me, I did a good job.
That's good. Yeah, so starting with training, while you're practicing swimrun, doing swimrun practices or whatever, we think it's a good idea to keep, quote-unquote, good general standards for maintenance and cleanliness. Now, what does that mean? Clean your stuff. Take care of it. Treat it well. It'll treat you well, especially with wetsuits, especially if you're swimming in open water. Salt water is more corrosive than fresh water, so you want to make sure you're rinsing all your gear out, not like a month after you've done your thing. Also, I think it's a good idea, Chipper. I know we've done this in training a lot, is pay attention to how the gear wears.
Yes.
Like wetsuit hot spots. Are you getting blisters on your shoes, like things like that?
Yeah, hot spots. I know we did a few sessions like, I keep getting a hot spot in my armpit area, kind of, so I would add extra lube there. Mm-hmm. And I guess our protocol, what we do after any swim run is, yes, it's very easy to, especially, we got to be right from swim run mode right to dad mode. It's immediate transition. And, it's easy to just throw your shit in the garage and walk inside and leave it. I'm saying that out of experience, and out of us too, I'm by far the worst offender of this. But it is worth the extra 5 minutes. What I do, I have like one of those extra, or a ladder, or a little clothes drying rack. I just take my hose and I just kind of rinse off my wetsuit. I could do it better. I could definitely clean it, but just getting some of that fresh water, get the salt out there. There's always sand. There's always some stuff all over you after
substance.
There's always stuff all over after a swim run. And same with the shoes, rinse those off, same with paddles, all that kind of stuff. You're just rinsing the salt water off, because that does seem to really accelerate the deterioration of your equipment.
Yeah. And I think thinking about it, for me, a swimrun practice isn't over until I've ran in the backyard real quick, hung up the suit, and just, hosed it down, cleared the shoes out. Same thing on a bike ride. The bike ride isn't done until you clean your chain and get lubed up for the next ride. So with the wetsuits though, don't leave it in the direct sun.
Yes. Kind of just put it into your garage or whatever out of direct sun, but let it air out a little bit. And then how do you kind of store it in between swim runs? I know sometimes I just throw mine over the top of a chair or something,
and it stays there for many months.
It stays there.
Or a Peloton bike.
Yeah,
it's a very fancy hanger.
For example, a very expensive hanger.
So I don't hang anything. Everything is laid down flat, because especially with a wetsuit. I just don't know, just
shoulders.
To get like weird.
Yeah.
It looks like you're wearing like 1980s shoulder pads or something.
Yeah, definitely not recommended. I think there is probably I have seen specific wetsuit hangers, but I don't believe it's recommended to be hanging your wetsuit.
I mean, this is probably like extremely nitpicky. So, feel free to fast forward this part or whatever. but yeah, like laying it flat, once it's dry, store it dry, never store it wet because it could get mold or who knows what else. And I think just overall, like in training, just like we recommend trying everything before race day and all that jazz, practicing how you're going to take care of your gear. And if you're using some super fancy arc suit, these things are thin, these things are delicate. So taking care of it, making sure it'll last as long as possible is a good thing.
Yeah. So that's our day-to-day training, your maintenance and that stuff, do all of it, do none of it. It's up to you. But this is what we do to kind of keep our gear treating us the best. Now, we're moving to a little bit of a different scenario pre-race. So, hey, we're headed over and we're doing Odyssey or Attila Casco Bay. What do we like to do? What do Low Tide Boys do before we pack all of our gear up to make sure that we're not showing up with, oh shit, we got a busted paddle strap or our tether's wonky? What kind of stuff do we like to do?
Right. So ideally, all the advice we're giving would be you would do this before you travel to the race. Some of these races are pretty, you don't know where you are. So if you need to find some very specific repair situation, that might be tough.
That's a great call out, Chris, because Swimrun's equipment is not so mainstream that if there's a sporting goods store, they might not have
might be in trouble.
You still might have a problem. So make sure you get yourself sorted before.
Right.
Paddle straps are not easy to just come by. Goggles, hey, you could probably go find some goggles.
Get those at CVS.
But tether equipment or pool buoys, certainly none of that stuff is going to be available.
And here's a pro tip: you're probably better off finding Swimrun repair stuff at like a dive shop, a scuba shop. Or a boat shop if you need like
marine something,
a marine situation rather than like Dick's or something.
Yes.
But so as you're laying out your race kit before you travel, we recommend obviously inspecting all your gear and then repair accordingly. Now, it bears repeating, inspect all your gear, especially your wetsuit. You want to make sure it's in full functioning order. Your shoes, make sure your shoelaces aren't messed up. Your socks, make sure you got that sorted out. Undergarments, pull buoy and attachment. How is it attaching to your body? Your tether and the attachment points, making sure everything is nice and tight. Your paddles, and this, we've seen it too many times, your straps. You want to really check your straps for nicks and cuts because those straps can just give way on the first swim of the World Championship or something crazy that you don't want to happen. And then obviously goggles, making sure everything is, you don't want to see any cracks in the straps like that.
And a frequent sufferer of foggy goggle syndrome. Put your anti-fog stuff in before you travel because you'll forget about it and just put it in. And that way when they're traveling, and then also throw the goggle fog spray in there just to have bonus.
Makes sense.
Those are excellent. And this would be the time as well. And I like to do this just kind of like lay it out like a human. You lay it out like, here's the wetsuit and you put your goggles up there. And then this is the time as well with the little neoprene glue. If you have any little nicks in there, now's the time to kind of cover those up and just make sure your suits doesn't have any big gashes in it or anything like that. But that's pretty good thing. And when you get to the race, before race night, one thing that I think you started doing this, Chris, and it seems to work out for you. It just saves you one more thing to do in the morning, I guess. So
it's like an extra layer kind of thing. Yeah, of just lubing the suit ahead of time, and then race morning lube yourself. That's a good point. And people, I have problems cabbing down. It's hard for me. I can't. My arms. That put lube on all the parts that you would be pulling down off your skin, and then put lube on your skin the next day. And I think we swear by none other than Tom's. 2 Toms Extreme. Yeah, Extreme because
it's red.
We're
very extreme as
dudes.
You've noticed.
Yeah, and a little pro tip there. We've been doing this for years, but we'll either take like a close to be expired 2 Toms Extreme or a travel size like Body Glide type thing, and we just take it with us on the bus, on the ferry, whatever, to the start line, and then you just make sure you get your neck one last time in all the areas. As Chipper mentioned, like if you think you're going to be coming down a lot, lube your shoulders, lube your
sleeves up,
your huge biceps and stuff.
And then, inevitably somebody else will want the lube. You just pass the lube around and then just toss in the bin. You're good to go.
Yep. For sure. Yeah, and here's, and while you're checking yourself on pre-race is definitely, we've heard of this happening where your laces will rip and then you got to figure out some situation. So always check your laces, make sure that at very least, and this is some super minutia advice, like you're at least double knotting your shoelaces. The water, fabrics can stretch, all this stuff, things get weird. I mean, I triple lace and I tuck.
Triple.
I tuck it in.
I tuck as well.
Yeah.
Has any of these pre-race initiatives saved you before, that you caught something that you would have showed up at the race?
They haven't.
Okay.
But at least my anxiety is kept in check.
Good. hey, that's part of the battle too. I have caught before Attila. I had a rip in my wetsuit, and so I caught that, and I had enough time. Luckily, I was I was definitely, the anxiety was high. I was checking a week ahead of time, and I went and I found my patch situation. I'm just patch. All you need to stay on for 10, 11 hours. That's all I'm asking.
Just patch down that anxiety.
And my paddle straps were definitely, and they've hold up in the pool, but not worth something that I'm looking to take a chance on.
Yeah, I forget who showed us their paddle. Might have been Marcus.
I think it was Marcus.
Before some race, he's like, "Hey, check this out," and it was
Marcus
just
Barton.
hanging on by a thread.
I'm like, why would you do this, dude?
It's oh my goodness. It's yeah. So yeah, I think making sure you're just checking on. I mean, the last thing you want, hey, for us, if you've heard the show enough, all we care about is making sure you have a great fucking time at your first swim run or your 10th swim run or your 50th swim run. And what makes for a crappy time? Your tether strap or, or your paddle strap or your goggles breaking or, your zipper falls off or something, so as much as you can not have to deal with that
stuff.
It's good.
Highly recommended to avoid that sort of.
Right. Yeah. So then hopefully pre-race, you're all set. You're dialed in. You're primed. You're lubed. You have a great experience. Now it's time to think about post-race.
Yeah. So post-race, similar protocol, I guess, to cleaning, but we're going to kind of assume post-race, there is some travel involved. So you might have to go back and catch a flight. You may have to check out of your hotel. So sort of the normal stuff might not be available. But still, if you can do it, definitely try to clean your shit. So clean your wetsuit, clean your shoes and stuff the most that you can. I know some of these places, they have outdoor showers. We'll take it off, we'll change into our street clothes, and then we'll rinse our wetsuit in the outdoor shower or something like that. Again, I think during races, at least with me, I'm less worried about dodging a branch with I'm looking out for all branches now, but dodging any sort of thing, I just kind of go. And so my wetsuit's probably more likely to get more stuff on it or more nicks there. Even,
and just from transitions and stuff like that, you could pick up a bunch of stuff. So that's another thing. So while you're cleaning your suit, just look out for anything that could be abrasive, that could just further damage your suit. So just cleaning it real nice. Even if you're traveling quickly, you're probably still going to travel with a wetsuit. Might as well be sort of a clean suit rather than something that smells like a bog by the time you get home.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want TSA pulling you over for anything. You also, if you're doing the poop swim, we retired a tether after the poop swim.
Yeah,
just because the poop got.
Sure,
it
exactly.
felt like it was in there.
Yeah, if you need yet another example on why cleaning your stuff makes sense, even things like your tether, just run the tether through a hose. Just make sure it's doesn't have any. Anything that could cause mini tears and stuff or poop.
Absolutely. And I think post-race, specifically around traveling back, you have a good little solution that you do. Sometimes I will bring a hotel towel or an extra towel and kind of roll my wetsuit up in that. I find that helps accelerate the drying, so that way it's not a really soggy thing. And then, Chris, why don't you share what you've been doing for your post-race, your dry bag situation? I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I have basically everything that Chipper mentioned, and then try to pad down, towel dry the suit as much as possible, then roll it up in a towel, like a microfiber towel that I usually bring, and then you put it in a dry bag and sort of seal it, and then it's just contained there until you get home 4 hours, 7 hours.
I've started doing that as well, and it just is nice to kind of keep all your wet stuff concealed, and it keeps it wet in there, and it keeps everything else dry, which is nice.
Yeah, and now because I'm just an obsessive person, now I have 2 dry bags, one for the suit and gear,
okay.
and then one for the shoes.
Nice.
Because the shoes, that's the hardest thing to try.
The shoes, I'll like take my socks off and I'll kind of stuff the shoes and the tether, a lot of stuff in the shoes, and then I'll just put the wetsuit on there with the towel in there. So the shoes are pretty gnarly, but I do deploy the dry bag strategy. It's a very good one.
Yeah.
On that front. So yeah, I think that pretty much.
Yeah. Well, I guess while if you have the time, inspecting your gear afterwards is good too, because there might be something there that you'll want to take care of. So, for example, chipper's running through branches, just going, tank
Ballistic.
mode through stuff. Like,
ballistic.
you never know. You could get nicks and cuts in your suit, so you can shed any tears you need to shed and then figure out what you're going to do when you get home, whether it's a patch kit or whatnot. Check for tears in your shoelaces, because that just might be something to look out for. Obviously, check the straps on your goggles and paddles. Yep. And then, our favorite part, replenish with any new gear.
Buy any new gear you like.
Next event.
Some people, I guess this could happen in the pre-race. You clean the paddles off if you rode on the paddles, or I like to leave it I memorialize the last race and all my training until the next race. So that's what I do. And then I guess it is the end of the season. The season's over. How do you like to store your gear for, we're not busting the Swimrun wetsuits out. It's going to be 2 or 3 months. How do you kind of store it away?
Well, my pull buoy stays on my bedside table.
Yeah,
because
in the bed, actually.
It has to be right there. Just, you never know. We need some extra buoyancy. And yeah, as I mentioned before, I try to lie everything flat, make sure everything's super dry. I have it in just sort of like a big bin with all my Swimrun stuff.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of wetsuits in there and all kinds of gear.
Yep.
I have some of those silica gel.
Oh, okay.
Sort of
do not
moisture absorb. Yeah, don't eat them. Especially these are huge. They're like the industrial. So I have a couple of those in there just to try to keep everything dry. And then I just kind of not in direct sunlight. It's all in the shade.
Nice.
It's like in a wine cellar.
I've been doing that, and we have so many extra towels. I'll do a towel layer in between.
Wow, that's
because the zippers are kind of sturdier, and I have noticed when I used to kind of fold them, and you fold the waist, and then the zipper part is kind of indenting on some of the other neoprene, so I put another extra bonus layer in there.
I like that.
But these are the neuroses that the low tide boys have.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the testament of neuroses is there's that, and then there's also the suit hanging over the Peloton screen for 4 months.
It's it's literally both ends of the spectrum. So I don't know what that says about me, but I'm sure some therapist out there.
Well, in the off season, it seems like you got it dialed in.
Yeah, but I don't. And I do have the pull buoy box, all the old pull buoys, some old paddles, way too many suits, old keels and stuff. But and we probably didn't hit on anything. So if there was something that didn't
hit on anything.
No,
it's possible we probably hit on something.
We might have hit it on a few things.
Give yourself some credit there.
But if there's anything else that you do, we would love to hear it. Share it with us.
Yeah.
You'll see this up on the Instagram, so be sure to comment in with what you do or don't do. I don't think it's recommended to put the wetsuit in the dryer.
No,
for example, that would be very frowned upon.
Follow the instructions of whatever manufacturer.
Yes.
do not ask. Do not tell.
Yeah, we don't recommend that, of course. But yeah.
I think that's it. Swimrun maintenance. Take care of your kit, people, and it'll take care of you.
Absolutely.
Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, that was almost.
Sweet,
the even though
tether.
the tether's stored away, the psychic tether's still intact.
Yeah. With that, everyone, happy holidays,
2024.
Yeah.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And leave a rating or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swimrun.
Check out our website, lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z, for swimrun resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boys on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swimrun and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run.
And then a swim.
Then another run.
Then another swim.
Then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel
Of
too.
course, yes.